Hello, 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 Coach Art community, and welcome to another art tutorial. My name is Jess. I'm a senior program manager here at Coach Art, where we're dedicated to creating a transformative arts and athletics community for families impacted by childhood chronic illness. Today, I'm so excited to teach everyone how to create these really cool 3D salt and watercolor snowflakes. That's really simple and an awesome wintertime craft activity for students. So to follow along, I'm going to show you everything you need and go through all of the steps. Okay? So give me 1 second. I'm going to show you my desk and we'll get into it. All right. So here we have our materials. The first thing you're going to want is some watercolor paper. You don't want to use regular paper. It's not going to be as thick as you want it to be. So you want something that can kind of hold the weight of the glue that we're going to be using. So you're going to want to grab some liquid school glue. It can be white, clear, it could be even colorful. Any glue that you have that's liquid is going to be awesome. You're also going to need some salt, right? So it can be any type of salt. I'm just using this regular table salt that I have in my house. Next, you need some watercolors. So you can choose any color that you want to make your snowflake. So I just have a few options out here for me. You want paper towels, a cup of water, and then a paintbrush. So I have just an older paintbrush because it's going to get salt and glue on it, and I don't want to mess up any nice new ones. So if you have one that's you've had for a while, you maybe want to grab for this project. You can also, of course, clean off your paintbrushes immediately after if you're worried about ruining any of them that you have, okay? And I do have a pen. I'm using a pen to show you a design for a snowflake, but you don't have to use a pen first. You can kind of just go in with your glue. You can also use a pencil for this step if you're worried about messing up or not knowing where to trace, okay? It's completely up to you. So the first thing we're going to do is make an outline for our snowflakes. And the cool thing about snowflakes is that they all look unique and different. There's no one right or wrong way to make a snowflake. So it's completely up to you what you want your design to look like. I'm going to do a basic design. I'm going to kind of just come up with it off the top of my head. Okay, so I'm starting with this hexagon shape, 6 sides, and then I'm going to add some lines that kind of spread out. You can start with a circle in the middle, a pentagon that has 5 sides. It's up to you, but you do want like a little starting point in the middle, and then you can branch out from there, and you can even put some cool designs like this. And again, I'm just using a pen, that way you can see what I'm doing nice and easily, okay? And we're just going to be going over one design today, but feel free to try this out with a few different ones. If you want, you can even cut your watercolor paper so that it's in the shape of a circle, right? And then you can wait until after it dries, of course. And then you can hang them if you put a hole in the top and put some string through it. You can hang them around your house. You can hang them if you celebrate on your Christmas trees. You can do lots of fun things. You can hang these in your room. I'm adding these little, like, I don't know if you call them branches. And I'm going to make these little circles bigger. Okay, so I think I have my unique snowflake design pretty much ready to go. Just having some fun with it. And once you have it drawn out, you want to use your glue to trace over your lines, okay? And if you didn't draw it out with me, you can just go straight in with the glue onto your watercolor paper, okay? So if you kind of know already what you want your snowflake to look like, if you're a snowflake pro, you can just take your glue and trace out what you want your snowflake to look like. And you don't want to use too much glue. It's going to take a very long time to dry, and that is not fun when you're waiting for it to dry and you want to kind of have fun with your project, or maybe put it places, right? We also don't want anything to slide around or anything like that. Okay. My glue's kind of stuck in the tip. I wonder why it's not. Give me 2 seconds to troubleshoot my, there we go. So again, you don't want to use too much. Otherwise, it will take a very long time to dry. You really want just enough so that the salt that we pour on after, it will stick. And if you are just joining us, welcome. Today's tutorial is for 3D salt and watercolor snowflakes. So we're designing our own snowflakes. You can use any snowflake pattern that you like. I'm still kind of using too much glue on accident. It's kind of just coming out of the bottle. So don't feel bad if your glue is kind of squirting out. I like to kind of push the tip into the paper, and that helps to spread it out a little bit thinner. That way it's not so thick, so you have some of these thick lines here in the beginning. That's going to take a while to dry. But these branches here on the outside are going to do a little bit better. Okay. All right. And I also don't recommend doing the outline in pen because you will be able to kind of see it. Hopefully the salt will cover it, but I cannot promise. So pencil will definitely be the way to go. It's light enough and it'll be covered easily. Now that we have our snowflake and glue, the next thing we want to do is cover it in salt. So I have my salt here. Oh, here we go. I have my salt. And pretty much what we're going to do is to take the tip and shake it all over my design. And we want to get it nice and saturated. If you get any of those big chunks, you want to try and get them out of the way, because we don't want really big chunks. Or if you can squish them, that works as well. And I'm covering everywhere where I had glue. This part can get a little messy, but we're gonna sweep everything up when we're done. Sorry to my parents out there. Messy but fun. Definitely worth the end result. So I'm giving it a nice layer, okay? And that's because when we shake it off, we don't want any glue to be remaining. Otherwise, we won't be able to paint over it until it dries, and we want it to dry with the color. Okay, so I have my salt. And I'm gonna let this sit for just a second. We want to kind of let it simmer. We want to let it settle in. While it's sitting, I'm gonna grab a bag to shake the salt into, okay? And I did have a bag not too far from me. You can also just dump it right into the trash can. It's up to you. I'm gonna give it just a few more seconds to kind of really just absorb the glue. The awesome part about this is that you don't have to wait for it to fully dry before you can start painting on it. And I'm going to also give you some other techniques to really help with if you're impatient and you don't want it to dry before you start painting. There are a few ways that you can not wait because I am much like you. I like to just get into the fun part, which is the painting for me. I think adding the color is lots of fun. While you are waiting, you can think about any colors you want to use in your snowflake. If you want it to be multicolor or just one color, I like to use blues and purple and greens. I'm not sure exactly what color I'm going to use today. And if you're joining and following along, please let me know in the comments what color you're thinking about using for your snowflake. I'd love to see what ideas everyone has. All right. So I'm going to shake this into a bag on the side, and I'm going to do it kind of gently. You don't want to do it too fast because we don't want to mess up our design. All right. Look at that. It's so cool. I'm going to try and just brush some of this excess salt out of the way for right now. And then we'll clean that up later at the end, right? So this is our snowflake, and now we get to color it in. For this step, you are going to need water. So I just have, and I'm going to be using these like covers for my water, and I'm just going to pour some water in here. I'm going to grab our paintbrush. Okay, I'm just using a really kind of it's still smooth, but it's kind of just been out of shape. Just a regular paintbrush, okay? I'm going to get it wet, and I'm going to choose my color. I think I'm going to go with a blue. Blue feels wintry, doesn't it? Even more wintry than the white. So I'm going to go with blue. And you want to dip it in there. You want to make sure that, depending on the type of watercolor you're using, if you're using it out of a palette like I am here, you need to add water to kind of activate that color and get the pigment moving around. Now the key is you don't want to use too much water. So after you get that pigment up and on your brush, you want to kind of coat it. If you need to dab off extra water on the side, you can. And then you want to take it, and you're going to lightly take your brush and then lightly tap the different areas of your design. If you add more water, and I'll show you what it looks like. If you add more water, it will spread a little bit faster, right? The water is going to spread throughout the design with a touch. Let me see. So, boom. But you will have to keep your picture very, very still while you're waiting for it to dry, because the water will need to settle in to the salt and the glue and the watercolor paper, and it's just going to drip if you try to move it too soon. And I really mean like overnight. So if you're going to use a good amount of water, you do get to color it in faster, but you will have to wait longer for it to dry. Other than that, it's kind of up to you. Sometimes you'll notice that when you go back into your color or your watercolor paint, you might have picked up some salt. It's really easy to wet your brush, wipe off that layer, that top layer where the salt is, and then clean off that color. So don't get too stressed out if you get salt in your watercolor palette. It won't be there forever. Now we get to just take our time adding color to our snowflake. try not to go over the same area too often. That's also going to make it take a lot longer to dry, because you're adding more and more water to the same concentrated spot. I just love watching the way it spreads when I do add a lot of water or more water. I think it looks really cool how it kind of fills in all of the salt that's there. And again, I absolutely love this project. It's a lot of fun. It's 3D. It's really easy. A lot of the time we already have the materials in our house. So even if you wanted to try this and you didn't have any paint, you could still make a 3D snowflake. And it would be white. And then after it dries, you can cut it out and you can put it places. You put it in your kitchen. And if it doesn't snow where you are, you'll have a nice piece of winter while enjoying the not so cold weather. And feel free to take your time. You don't have to rush through these steps either. Right, we want to make sure that we get a nice coating of color. And you also don't have to do the same color or just one color. You can make a multicolor rainbow. It doesn't even have to be winter colors. Right, you can have a lot of fun with this project. Every once in a while I am going back and just fully rinsing off my brush so that I don't add too much salt. I'm still getting a little bit of salt in my palette, but I don't want to add too much salt. Oh, and I'm happy to report that it seems as though the ink has been completely covered. So under the salt you can still kind of see it a little bit, but once you add the color, as long as you put the glue over top, it does not show. So if you did have to use pen like me, no one will know. And that's kind of awesome. All right, I'm gonna make this one down here just a little bit darker. And then we have our snowflake. How fun and simple was that? So I'm going to just wipe off my brush. I recommend doing a deeper clean of your brush, especially if you want to save it. So ends up looking kind of nice. I'll do a better clean a little bit later. And we do want to let this sit for a little bit longer. I would say at least the rest of the day. But if you can't help it, then at least another 4 or 5 hours, I would recommend. Okay? All right. Okay, so I'm back. Thank you so much for tuning in to this tutorial. Don't forget to check us out over at coachart.org, where you can find tons of self-guided lessons and fun tutorials for your students. You can also find ways to get involved with us, volunteer as a coach, and work with some of the awesome students that we serve here at Coach Art. It was a ton of fun to do this tutorial with you. Don't forget to tag us if you try it out and share some of your snowflake designs. And I will see everyone at another tutorial. Bye.